Welcome to the Town of Derry Planning Board for May 15th, 2024. We start our meetings with the Pledge of Allegiance. If you would please join me.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Put that water over there.
Just a few housekeeping items. If there is an emergency, there is an exit to the rear of the room. There's also an exit you will be able to use to my right, to your left, if the alarm goes off. In the event of an alarm, the elevator will not operate, so please wait for first responders to assist you. The Planning Board continually volunteers to offer remote participation. If any member of the Planning Board participates remotely, all votes shall be by roll call. If you are attending the meeting from cyberspace, you may use a computer or other smart device and visit www.zoom.us. The meeting ID is 754-663-912, or you may call in on your phone to get audio only, and one of those phone numbers is area code 646-558-8656. Same meeting ID, 754-663-912. If you are on the phone, you may hit *6 to unmute yourself when you're recognized, and *9 to raise your hand. If you're on a browser with Zoom, there's a little button that says raise your hand. At this point, I will introduce the staff and the members who are present tonight. First, Mr. George Sioris.
Good evening.
Planning Director. Ms. Caroline Wilson, who is our, what is your title now? Planning Clerk?
Planning Administrative Secretary 2.
Planning Administrative Secretary 2.
Yes.
Yeah, great, thank you. Mr. Chase, who is our Town Administrative Representative.
Good evening.
Mr. Healy, who's a regular member.
Good evening.
Mr. Gunis, who's the Town Council Liaison.
Good evening.
Mr. O'Connor, who is our Vice Chair.
Good evening, all.
We have Mr. Owen Preventure, who is facilitating the video tonight. We have Mr. Mark LaRue from the town's engineering department.
Good evening.
Mr. Andy Myers.
Good evening.
Mr. Brian Fishman.
Good evening.
And Mr. Richard Malaby, who is our secretary. My name is Dave Nelson. I'm the chair. So we will go into our regular agenda at this point. The first item is items of escrow. And Mr. Soros, would you introduce them for us, please?
Yep, thank you, Mr. Chair. First escrow is, the applicant of the project name is Ball Farm Estates. This was originally the Donnie Ball Farm on English Range Road. The new owners are East Winfield Realty LLC, which is the developer. It's a cash escrow, again, at 53 English Range Road. Action requested, please release cash escrow drawn in Enterprise Bank in the amount of $14,777.50 for the above noted project. This escrow is not interest bearing. Just as a procedural thing, Mr. Chairman, we're going to release this amount of the cash escrow based on the family, which is East Winfield, and it's going to follow up with a replacement escrow under the new bill of that purchased the lot. So we'll do this one first.
Great, thank you. What's the board's pleasure?
Mr. Chairman, I move to accept escrow number 24-09.
Second.
Moved by O'Connor, seconded by Malaby to accept as presented. I will poll the board. Mr. Chase?
Yes.
Mr. Healy?
Yes.
Mr. Grenice?
Yes.
Mr. O'Connor?
Yes.
Mr. Myers?
Yes.
Mr. Fishman?
Yes.
Mr. Malaby?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes.
Okay, keep on a roll. We have a few of them tonight. So escrow number 2410, again, the applicant is Ball Farm Heights, the project, excuse me. The developer now is Liberty Woods LLC, Keith Martell, who purchased the lots from the family. Again, the address is 53 English Range Road. Cash escrow, please establish cash escrow drawn in Enterprise Bank, again in the amount of $14,777.50 for the above noted project. This escrow is non-interest bearing. Staff would recommend approval.
Okay, and for clarification, is this also releasing the previous one?
No, this is establishing. You just released it under the previous owner,
Oh,
and we're
okay.
replacing the new builder that purchased it.
Okay. What is the board's pleasure?
Mr. Chair, I move to accept escrow number 24-10, which is to establish a cash escrow drawn on Enterprise Bank in the amount of $14,777.50 for the above noted project. This escrow is non-interest bearing.
Second.
Moved by O'Connor, seconded by Malaby. We will poll the board. Mr. Chase?
Yes.
Mr. Healy?
Yes.
Mr. Grenice?
Yes.
Mr. O'Connor?
Yes.
Mr. Myers?
Yes.
Mr. Fishman?
Yes.
Mr. Malaby?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes.
Okay, next one, Mr. Chairman, number 24-11. The project name is the Jefferson Street subdivision. That was a 3-lot subdivision the board approved back in February. The developer is Corner Post Restorations LLC. Again, a cash escrow, 24 Jefferson Street. Please establish cash escrow drawn on Citizens Bank in the amount of $15,479 for the above noted project. This escrow is non-interest bearing. There will be two escrows by this particular developer because they're selling both lots separately. So you'll see a follow-up escrow on the same project.
Okay, great, thank you. What is the board's pleasure?
Mr. Chairman, I move to accept escrow number 24-11, which is the Jefferson Street subdivision, which is establishing a cash escrow drawn on Citizens Bank in the amount of $15,479 for the above noted project. This escrow is non-interest bearing.
Second.
Moved by O'Connor, O'Connor, and seconded by Mr. Malaby. We'll poll the board. Mr. Chase?
Yes.
Mr. Healy?
Yes.
Mr. Grenice?
Yes.
Mr. O'Connor?
Yes.
Mr. Myers?
Yes.
Mr. Fishman?
Yes.
Mr. Malaby?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes.
Thank you. Keep on a roll here. The next one is number 24-12, again, Jefferson Street subdivision. Developers Corner Post Restorations LLC, again, a cash escrow, 24 Jefferson Street. Please establish cash escrow drawn on Citizens Bank in the amount of $16,295.50 for the above noted project. This escrow is non-interest bearing. Staff would recommend approval.
What is the board's pleasure?
Mr. Chairman, I move to accept escrow number 24-12. The project name is Jefferson Street subdivision, which is establishing a cash escrow drawn in the Citizens Bank in the amount of $16,295.50 for the above noted project. This escrow is non-interest bearing.
Second.
Moved by O'Connor, seconded by Malaby. I will poll the board. Mr. Chase?
Yes.
Mr. Healy?
Yes.
Mr. Grenice?
Yes.
Mr. O'Connor?
Yes.
Mr. Myers?
Yes.
Mr. Fishman?
Yes.
Mr. Malaby?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes.
Okay, thank you again. Next one, number 2413, project is Franklin Meadows. It's the project right outside here, the 3-unit townhouse project that's under construction at the corner of Pearl and Franklin Street. Steve McMaster Development LLC is a developer, cash escrow. Again, 16 Franklin Street, please establish cash escrow drawn in Enterprise Bank in the amount of $70,518 for the above noted project. This escrow is non-interest bearing. Staff would recommend approval.
Board's pleasure?
Mr. Chairman, I move to accept escrow number 24-13, which the project name is Franklin Meadows, which is establishing a cash escrow drawn on Enterprise Bank in the amount of $70,518 for the above noted project. This escrow is non-interest bearing.
Second.
Moved by O'Connor, seconded by Malaby. I'll poll the board. Mr. Chase?
Yes.
Mr. Healy?
Yes.
Mr. Grenice?
Yes.
Mr. O'Connor?
Yes.
Mr. Myers?
Yes.
Mr. Fishman?
Yes.
Mr. Malaby?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes.
Okay, thank you again. Last one, number 2414. Project name is subdivision located at 182 Island Pond Road. It's a 2-lot subdivision. The developer is Treeline Property Services, Thomas Sod, which is the owner of both the property and the Treeline Property Service Company. Again, cash escrow, please establish cash escrow drawn on Bank of America in the amount of $8,625 for the above noted project. This escrow is non-interest bearing. Staff would recommend approval.
Board's pleasure?
Mr. Chairman, I move to accept escrow number 24-14. The project name is Subdivision Plan of Map 6-Lot 35. Establish cash escrow drawn on the Bank of America in the amount of $8,625 for the above noted project. This escrow is non-interest bearing.
Second.
Moved by O'Connor, seconded by Malaby. Mr. Chase.
Yes.
Mr. Healy.
Yes.
Mr. Grenice.
Yes.
Mr. O'Connor.
Yes.
Mr. Myers.
Yes.
Mr. Fishman.
Yes.
Mr. Malaby.
Yes.
And the chair votes yes.
Thank you.
Great. Is this a record for escrow?
Yeah, I think it will be. I think it is. Yeah, Mark, I think we don't have had this many in a long time, so.
Yeah, it was a busy month.
It's a good thing.
Shows we're doing stuff.
Glad somebody's got money.
Next item on the agenda is approval of minutes. We have two separate minutes that need to be voted. First, the regular minutes of April 17th, 2024.
Mr. Chairman, if no one on the board has any comments or adjustments to make of this here, I move to accept our minutes of April 17th, 2024.
Second.
I had one editorial comment. At the end of the minutes, Mr. Grenice made comments under board member comments, and we should probably have a header that says board member comments. It looked like it was a run-on from the previous application, so we can just insert that. Any other changes, errors, omissions? Not? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Any abstentions? Okay, the minutes of 17th are approved. We also have the non-public minutes of the same night.
Mr. Chair, if there's no comments from the board, I'd like to move to approve the non-public minutes from Wednesday, April 17th, 2024.
Moved by Malaby,
I'll second it.
seconded by O'Connor. Any questions or discussion? Mr.
Chairman, I got a
Grenice.
question. Did we seal these or no?
We decided there was nothing in them that was sensitive to required sealing, so we did not.
Okay.
Any other questions? Oh, Then all, yes, sir.
Should that be mentioned in the minutes then?
It should be in the public minutes.
It is. It is mentioned in the public minutes.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay.
anything else?
Nope.
Great. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Any abstentions? Okay, minutes for the non-public of the 17th are also approved. Next item on the agenda is correspondence.
Mr. Chair, I'm saddened to report there is no correspondence.
Oh, okay.
Sad.
Other business, we have third reading of the board's policies and procedures. The staff reordered the wording to reflect the board's concerns from last meeting, so if you had a chance to review that, any other discussion, any other questions or issues?
Mr. Chairman, just for the record, so the boards, if you go to page 7 for the members, it didn't highlight that well, but just go down to midway where it says for each formal application, the board agreed last meeting to include the word as, where it says as follows, the applicant is asked to formally present the project. That's what the board wanted to see in there at the last meeting.
And just as a side note, I did attend the annual spring planning and zoning conference, and the attorneys actually encouraged boards to have things like this in their policies and procedures, so. Any other discussion? Poll the board. Mr. Chase?
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry, do you have,
Is there a motion?
oh, yeah, we need a motion.
I make a motion to accept the changes in the planning board policy and procedures.
Second.
Moved by O'Connor and seconded by Malaby to accept the revisions to the policies and procedures on the third reading. We'll poll the board. Mr. Chase?
Yes.
Mr. Healy?
Yes.
Mr. Grenice?
Yes.
Mr. O'Connor?
Yes.
Mr. Myers?
Yes.
Fishman?
Yes.
Mr. Malaby?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. The next item of other business is a third extension request for PID 35011-00114 Folsom Road. We actually do have correspondence on this that is attached to that package. And Mr. Soros, maybe you could review that for us?
Sure. Did you want me to read the whole letter of the request for the record, or you want me to just summarize it, or?
If there's no objection from the board, I think you could summarize it.
Okay,
Yep.
yeah, is that, okay, perfect.
idea.
For some of the newer members, this property is located at 14 Folsom Road. This was approved back in 2000 for Simpson Hills LLC, also Lamontagne Builders. And it was approved as an office park. This is the property on the north side of Folsom. If you go from the police station, the car wash, all that side of the road, those properties have been taken. So this property is the field, or was the field up in the back. So long story short, the board, they requested a couple of extensions given the 4A project, and you're starting to see things finally happen out there. So anytime there's a third request, we ask that the applicant be here in person. There are representatives here from Lamontagne Builders to explain why they need the request. I think it's pretty obvious with the 4A project. There's still a lot of work with engineering, the police station work, the New Hampshire DOT and the town, they're still working issues out. So based upon that, you have a letter attached to my staff report from Mr. Karen, the town administrator, again, supporting the request, given the 4A work that still is outstanding. This will probably go on for a while. So staff would recommend approval to give an extension for 2 years, which would be till July 15, 2026.
Any questions? Mr. O'Connor?
Yes, I was chair at the time that we heard this site way back when, and the developer did indicate that they were going to hold off till 4A moved down in that particular area there. So I would concur with Judge that we approve the third extension.
Mr. Grenice?
Mr. Chairman, if there's no other comments, I'd like to make a motion.
I don't see any
All right,
other
so make a
comments.
motion to approve 24-month extension of the conditional approval granted on June 24th, 2022 to the PID 35011-001, 14 Folsom Road. The new expiration date will be July 15, 2026.
Second.
Moved by Grenice, seconded by Malaby. Any further discussion? If not, I will poll the board. Mr. Chase?
Yes.
Mr. Healy?
Yes.
Mr. Grenice?
Yes.
Mr. O'Connor?
Yes.
Mr. Myers?
Yes.
Mr. Fishman?
Yes.
Mr. Malaby?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming, and
Okay.
good luck with your project.
Thank you, guys. Okay.
Do
Okay.
you have any
Yeah, I do.
planning
I do
director
have one.
updates?
Just to talk real brief about our summer schedule for the new members, we usually meet once in July, once in August. So the July meeting is all set. We never meet the Wednesday night before the 4th, which would be July 3rd. So we'll stay on our regular meeting on the 17th. That will be in line with the council meeting for Owen and his staff. We'll get back to you on the August date because the council, Dave Quinesi, is going to confirm the August council meeting. But so for July, it'll be the 17th, and I'll get back to you when our August meeting will be. Then after Labor Day in September, we go back to 2 meetings.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And I will make my ongoing plea for members of the community to volunteer as alternates for the planning board. We do actually have received one form indicating interest, so hopefully that will materialize. But even so, we still have 2 vacancies that we need to fill. Okay, public hearing. Public hearing for Paul Doolittle, parcel ID 0913833 Old Chester Road, a 3-lot subdivision. Mr. Cioris?
Okay, again, real quick, staff report. As you indicate, the applicant's Paul Doolittle. The address is 33 Old Chester Road. The purpose of the plan is for a 3-lot subdivision located in the low-medium density residential district. The minimum acreage out there is 2 acres. The plan is to subdivide off the existing family home on one parcel, and then the new parcels created, one will be 12.5 acres, and the other will be 9.9 acres, respectively. All town departments have signed and reviewed the plan. I have the signed one here with me, so that was done. There is a waiver request. I'll let Tim talk about it regarding the water main extension and the underground utilities. They do have their state approval from New Hampshire DES for the subdivision. We have a copy in our file, and staff would recommend approval of both the waiver request and the subdivision plan, and I'll turn it over to Tim Peliquin, surveyor representing the owner.
Okay, thank you. Good evening. Yep, for the record, I'm Tim Peliquin, Promised Land Survey, representing Paul Doolittle family, and Paul Doolittle is here in the audience if any questions are needed for the landowner. particularly. But this land has been carved up a couple of times. We subdivided off 2 lots at the end a number of years ago, maybe as much as 10 years ago, I can't quite recall. But Mr. Doolittle was hanging on to his homestead as long as he could, but it's at the point now that he just needs to divide this up this last time, I would suggest. And so what his intention is to subdivide off his farmhouse and his improvements of the property onto the minimum 2 acres. Actually, it's 2.32. It increased a little bit we could have made it exactly 2 based on soils, but it's a little bit greater than that just because of the views of the pond and various improvements that he has on the lot he wanted to keep. So that lot is approximately 2.32 acres, and then the lot to the east and the lot to the west are respectively about 10 and 12 acres. Now, there's a lot of wetlands out there, so not to be fooled with the large acreage, but there's ample building area on both of these lots, and there'll be no wetland impacts as part of any driveways and things like that. So it's pretty straightforward in terms of a subdivision, nice large lots where there'll be a single building, single-family residential building on each lot is the intention. Both lots, though, and there's a lot sizing table on each of the sheets, just so you see it and know it, by high-intensity soils. One is the 2-acre lot, for instance, is 138% of the soils. So in other words, it has ample land area for soils. Another lot has 223%, another 607%, just so that you see there's ample land area for soils for both lots, even though there's an abundance of wetlands. So the idea is to subdivide this to 3 single-family residential lots. All will be on private septic systems, and we're proposing wells and not having to extend the water, because there is a regulation if a water main is within a certain distance, you're to connect to it, but that would be cost prohibitive to the client, and it would cause a lot of construction and of a fairly good road that's in good shape. And our request is to drill wells as we did on the other lots, and as the other wells within this area, as the other lots within this area enjoy private wells. So our proposal is to have private wells, and then we're also asking for overhead electric, as not having to dig into the road for utility services, for electrical services to these lots. Overhead electric is more ample, and every other lot on this street has overhead electric. So those are the 2 waivers we're requesting. With that, I'll pause. I don't need to take up too much of your time, because to me it's relatively simple and straightforward, but try to answer any questions the board would have, or perhaps members of the public. Actually, there is one more thing. So on our latter sheets 5 or 6, is site distance profiles. And I just want you to be aware that there's one area where we've identified where site distance isn't quite there based on a large boulder on the side of the road. So we identify that on the grading sheets, that there's a small section of site distance improvement to be made outside the pavement. So there's a regrading of a section and removing of the boulder for safe site distance. So with that, I'll pause and answer any questions the board were happy, or perhaps members of the public.
All right.
Thank you.
On the matter of jurisdiction, what is the board's pleasure?
Mr. Chairman, I move to accept jurisdiction of the subdivision plan before the board for Paul Doolittle, PID 09138, 33 Old Chester Road.
Second.
Moved by O'Connor, seconded by Malaby. I will poll the board. Mr. Chase?
Yes.
Mr. Healy?
Yes.
Mr. Grenice?
Yes.
Mr. O'Connor?
Yes.
Mr. Myers?
Yes.
Mr. Fishman?
Yes.
Mr. Malaby?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. On the matter of regional impact, what is the board's pleasure?
Mr. Chairman, pursuant to RSA 36:56, the board finds the proposal as presented this time meets the definition of development of regional impact.
Second.
Moved by O'Connor, seconded by Malaby. I will poll the board. Mr. Chase?
No, this is a small subdivision, not even a subdivision, lot line, yeah, it is a subdivision. In the center of town, and it has no regional impact.
No, for the same reasons.
No, for the same reasons.
I agree with them, no.
Mr. Myers?
Mr. Chase articulated it quite well, so I'll vote no for the same reasons.
Fisherman?
Concur, no regional impact.
Maloney?
No, for the same reasons as Mr. Chase.
Yes, I agree, no regional impact.
And Mr. Chairman, I'd like to move to open the public hearing.
Second.
Been moved by O'Connor, seconded by Mellenby to open the public hearing. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Public hearing is open. Any member of the public present physically or online who wishes to ask questions or make comments, please come forward.
Hi, my name is Mary Jo. I live
So
Wait
just wait till we get you on the mic for the tape.
Okay,
Thank you.
okay, okay. Can I talk now?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. My name is Mary Jo Dalton. I live across the street from Paul Doolittle. It looks like across from the lot to the left that's a little larger. I think his representative surveyor had said that the wetlands were such that they weren't going to affect, because we have a beautiful pond right across the street and all the water comes. So I was concerned about our pond. Is it going to be, because it raises our property value? So will that be affected? It sounds like it won't. It sounds like by coming to this meeting that they are doing one single-family home per lot and not affecting the wetlands. But I just wanted to make sure that was accurate.
Okay, great, thank you. Is that it?
Yep.
So according to our new policy we just adopted, we ask the applicant to address questions as they occur.
I'll just come to you. You can stay sitting.
Oh, okay.
So the answer would be, no, there's no effect to the wetlands. There should be zero effect to her wetlands across the street. Truthfully, like, anytime a house gets built in a driveway, there's slightly more impervious surface, right? So when it rains, it's gonna spill off. However, it's negligible, and it's not gonna drain out your pond at all. It should not at all. That's the answer.
Okay.
Thank you.
Can I ask another question?
Sure.
So when he sells these lots, I mean, a developer can do whatever they want with it, right? They can put like 5 houses in.
Well, no. I mean, there are zoning ordinances and land subdivision regulations which in this district require a single lot per single family home. So if they were to come back and propose more structures for more homes, they would need to do another hearing.
And I would be aware of that. I would get as an abutter, I
Yep.
would get a notification.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments or questions in the room?
Is there anything on the,
Seeing none, rise online, Mr. Chair.
Okay, so now we go back to the board for questions or
okay,
comments.
Mr. Chairman, seeing nobody approaching, then I move to close the public.
No, we're actually, according to the new thing, we're going to ask our questions during the
that's
public
right,
hearing.
that's right.
And if somebody gets their interest piqued, they can come up for alibis.
Oh,
You're going to have to retrain us all.
I like
Mr.
the old
Grenese.
way.
I have a question, and I saw Mr. Myers. So, quick question. It's about the waiver. How far is the water main?
Less than 1,000 feet.
All right.
I'm sorry, I don't know exactly.
Less than 1,000 feet.
Hmm.
Public Works have any
800,
issue with
900.
not hooking up to the water main?
No, not particularly, because the cost of the main, especially in today's world, cost of utility extensions have risen dramatically, and it's more intended for as a sprinkler, requirement for the house. In lieu of that, they can sprinkle, so that's fine.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
It's close to
Mr.
1,000
Chairman?
feet, just so you know.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Myers.
I just had a couple of questions, please. Tim, I thought that, I guess I'm wrong, but I thought this was conservation land. That was a farm for years. No?
No,
Okay.
it's not. I mean, Mr. Doolittle and his dad prior, right, was heavy into Conservation
Right.
Commission and all
Right.
the work with that. So it may be perceived as that because they're conservationalists
Right.
and historically. So, but no, this land has never been dedicated as conservation. There's been
Okay.
talk of it in the past, but
Okay, all right. The copy of the plan that we have, I guess all the town departments have signed off, but the copy of the plan we have doesn't have the signatures. So
Yes.
Conservation Commission signed off on that.
yes.
Yes.
The next question I have is with respect to the deed, the present deed, it doesn't have any restrictive covenants restricting subdividing?
Nope.
Okay. Finally, the last question I have for you, I promise, and that is, so many of these plans come to us, and the waiver is, to waive the requirement for underground installation of utility lines. I don't know why the town even has that, because we seem to want to waive that in 80 or 90% of these plans. Is there any specific hardship that would be caused by requiring underground installation? I mean, a lot of times we see that in these plans. We see that there's a hardship, there's rocks, there's, ledge. Is there any hardship that would prevent reasonable underground utility lines?
Well, ledge is a really good one that you just brought up, because once you start trenching and you're going along a 100-foot section, you can easily hit ledge within that corridor. So that is a hindrance, as well as cost. And sometimes usually you'll have to bring a pole across the road anyway. And that's, the particular electric company, I'll leave unnamed, is very difficult to try to get them to service things. So overhead electric is a much simpler, quicker solution and affordable.
I understand what you're saying, I really do. But when you and I both talk about ledge as a general problem, has that been identified as a specific problem in this plan?
No. Not specifically, but I can look at the test pit data and identify what some problem areas could be, like.
I'm just wondering if there's any specific hardship on this plan as to why that requirement needs to be waived. I mean, maybe the town should just get rid of that because we waive it in almost every plan.
I can't say, I mean, we didn't do ledge probes along any potential line, so I cannot give a definitive answer. But I will tell you, ledge is like this. It doesn't, it's not this. It goes like this, right? Mark can attest to that, you're a town engineer. So cost prohibitive for some of those reasons, as well as all the whole neighborhood is overhead electric.
Sure is. Okay, thank you.
Who's next? Mr. O'Connor.
I have a couple questions, one for Mr. LaRue and then one for Tim. Mr. LaRue, coming down the road, Old Chester Road, on the left-hand side prior to getting to 33, is a red pipe coming out of the ground that looks like it's hooked up to a cistern. Is that sufficient enough for 1,000 feet? So they don't have to put sprinklers in?
I'm not sure about the,
I think you're talking about the
Appears to be a
standpipe that the East
dry
Derry Fire
hydrant.
Department put into a
Yeah.
pond at one point.
Oh, is that what it is? It
Yeah.
goes to a
Yes.
pond?
I'm not sure how operable that is or reliable that
Oh,
is.
typically, you see those
Emergency-
sticking out, usually the cisterns there.
Yeah.
No, from my days on the East Derry Fire Commission, I'm intimately familiar with that. And it depends upon the water level in that little pond, which isn't very big, so it is not a reliable source of water that would supplant a cistern or a residential sprinkler.
Excellent, thank you.
I would agree. I mean, generally, those pipes have to be 4 feet under the water and have so much separation from the bottom of that pipe to the bottom of the water to prevent mucking around the pipe. And it constantly has to be maintained. That's been there for a long time. I wouldn't trust it. I would say it's an emergency water source for the town of Derry's fire
Just
department.
anecdotally, there's a similar thing that goes into Beaver Lake, and that is very serviceable.
I've seen a few of them around, but I thought it might have been a cistern. Okay, my question now is for Tim on sheet 2 of 6, in the notes, and here's where I'm a little confused. Note number 3 says this parcel of land does not lie within a special flood hazardous area. blah, blah, blah.
Yep.
And then it continues on, the easterly end of the parcel lies within the flood area. So you're saying two
Zone
different
X
things.
specifically.
It also makes reference within the flood area X. I don't know what X is. I
Yeah.
can't find X.
Neither does the federal government. So it's an area that the government gave up on trying to identify. Could be flood zone, probably not. That's what it is.
So is the letter on file someplace? Is that with the deeds or?
We're just covering our bases. It's not within the FEMA flood zone as mapped. But they do identify an area of X, which is an indeterminate area that doesn't affect these parcels, doesn't affect this, really. It's just because of the abundance of wetlands and, I forget the brook, but it's contiguous to this, and so it has a spillway, and it potentially could come to this area.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
It really doesn't mean
Interesting.
anything. I'm sorry, but Zone X is ambiguous.
They should call it Area 51.
Yeah, something like that.
That's already taken, Dave.
It's a good question. It's again a good insight, a good catch, but
Okay,
sorry, I
thank
don't
you.
have a better answer for you, other than, no, I won't say stupid government. But I just
You
did.
done? Any other, Mr. McGrinnis?
I'm going to follow what Mr. Meyer said about the overhead electric. The pole's on the other side of the street, so they would drop a pole on the other side of the street so you wouldn't have to dig up the street.
Correct.
Okay, earlier you said you'd have to dig up the street, and
And
I know
then
like my development
well,
went in, and they have a pole
it
across
could.
the street,
It
everything's
could.
underground.
It could. That, it depends what Eversource will decide. A lot of times they'll allow a pole, one pole, and then run it. But sometimes they'll want you to trench and put a feeder right off the pole.
I could offer a little more insight on the electrical component of these underground versus overhead. Over time, the evolution of trying to go underground, you just can't go from whatever pole is nearby. Eversource has a requirement that they have to do a separate drop-down pole to do a service line underground. So whatever side of the road you're on, whatever, you would still, even if the pole was right next to the, on the same side of the lot, or of the road as the lot, you would still have to do another drop pole. So, and you're, to Mr. Meyer's point, we get a lot of waiver requests for individual lots because now we're seeing a lot of individual lots in well-developed areas being splintered off, and it's all predominantly overhead. So now it's not unsightly, if you will, to have another wire or another pole versus if you were doing a new road extension in a new development. It's more appropriate for that application to keep everything underground. So I think it's important to keep that regulation. But there's it's the board's determination if you want to maintain this underground status. It's still getting lines under the ground and making it a little bit more pleasing to the eye or less obtrusive to other items. But in these cases, they're required to set poles even for underground to initiate an underground for a street subdivision.
So that said, Mr. Grenese, I want to come back to you to apologize for misstating that, because I did not know that Eversource required that at this point, a drop pole each time, because I've seen them trench and put a feeder right off the pole, but evidently that's old at this point.
Thank you. Thank you, Mark.
Good catch. I can't get away with anything.
Any additional
I just have a comment.
comments or questions?
Yeah, just a comment, Mr. Chairman, to follow up with Andy said. Andy, just FYI, the town worked the conservation land that you alluded to earlier, it's actually when you look on the map, just look at lot number 10, it says Town of Derry. That's the conservation land that the town.
Right, okay.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it was done many, many years ago with Paul's family, Albert Doolittle, and that's the conservation land that, Andy, I think you were probably thinking about.
Oh, thank you, George. Right.
So I actually have one question regarding sheet number 3 of 6. There are some call-outs regarding existing structures that appear to encroach on the building setback line. There's one that points to a Quonset hut, and it says to be modified to conform to setbacks.
Yes.
And then there's another one on the opposite side of the lot line that says trailer to be removed. But there's also, closer to the road, there is a trailer that, at least on the plat, is shown as crossing the building setback, and there's no notation for that.
Sure. Right, because it's a movable structure. So if it's the board's pleasure that that trailer is moved within the building setbacks, we could probably note and make that happen. But generally, it's a trailer that can be moved. So if it's not a permanent structure.
So I have questions for those more intimate with the codes than I. Trailers that are movable but sitting there for long periods of time, are they allowed to exist within the setbacks?
That's a great question. I think that the normal definition of the structure, I want to speak for the code enforcement people, but it's 15 feet. Once that structure becomes permanent, it has to have a side setback or a rear setback of 15 feet, and then 35 off the road. So
Let me follow up. Is that trailer still easily movable? It has its wheels on it and whatnot?
Okay.
I guess I would suggest that we add a similar note that the trailer is to be moved to conform to the setback, as I feel a little uncomfortable about approving a plat that actually shows such an incursion.
Sure.
Is that reasonable?
Very reasonable.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments, questions? Mr. Grenice?
So I was reviewing the TRC notes from February 23, 2024. Code Enforcement Director Bob Mackey encouraged Mr. Peliquin to ensure that the building currently is in a property line setback, quotations, Quonset hut be removed.
Yeah, so the Quonset hut has a note, but the trailer doesn't.
Right.
If you look at the detail on sheet 3.
And the Quonset hut, the way we've asked, or the way we've worded it by Mr. Doolittle is he has that Quonset hut filled with items of his care. So he was looking to remove some hoops, so to speak, of that and set it back, and we'll help him to make sure it's 15 feet from the new sideline setback. So that's why that's worded the way it is.
Okay. Any other comments or questions from the board? Did any of that raise any other questions from members of the public? We got one in live, though.
I'm Jordan Young from 13 Old Chester Road, 2 houses down, or the 3rd house down on the left. I'm not opposed to this project. I had just one question. Are there driveway culverts proposed for these driveways? Oh, sorry.
That's okay.
I didn't see them on there.
No. And I can go to more to these sheets, Jordan. It shows a little bit more of the detail. These are the sections.
Tim, can you point that out on the screen when you get finished?
Sure.
So we can see.
Nope. There's a head wall here.
Yeah. It's just one driveway I was talking about.
Right, so you guys have to speak up so you can be on the record, please.
So my main concern was lot 138-4. There could be a drainage issue there. We do have drainage issues on Old Chester Road. The road actually floods up to the center line. And I just wanted to make sure we're not making it any worse. And so 138-4 is the one on the left, on the south side.
Yeah, I can answer just to say that's actually a very flat section of the road right at that point. So we can look at it. We can look at it in unison with your town engineer and Jordan, the abutter here, to assure that it doesn't need to be installed or covered, but it's a very flat section there, so it's going to be, maybe difficult, but I'd be glad to look at that.
It's, can you see what sheet it was? It was,
Yeah, go back to sheet 3.
not this one. Yeah, it's actually sheet 3 of 6. You can see some of the existing contours are pushing against that proposed driveway on the northern side. So it looks like it's going to dam up some road drainage. I just wanted to point that out. There's about, what, 3 feet of difference there that drops down to the driveway. That's all I had.
Well, if the town's engineering department's happy to work with the abutter to resolve this as a condition subsequent, I think that would be satisfactory, but we should probably get it nailed down before the plan is finalized and signed.
Tim, could you repeat the lot number that's in question?
Sure.
I missed that.
So what the question was is lot 138-4, is a driveway culvert necessary? And what I would propose is that we would resolve that issue with Public Works engineer and the abutter prior to this board signing of the plat. Because I know that can be worked out. If one is needed, we'll do it. Don't want any damning effect of the farmhouse, basically.
Okay. Are you taking notes on
Yep.
conditions?
Yeah, I got 2 notes.
All right. Any other questions? Mr. Chase?
So, in reference to one of the waivers, Tim, the one for the water main extension, I see nothing in the notes anywhere. I mean, on note 9, it states what must be done, but it doesn't state what's going to be done. Have you chosen a cistern, or have you chosen sprinklers?
Sprinklers. So,
It's not noted in the plan. It just says what needs to be done if sprinklers are chosen. It doesn't say that sprinklers will be installed.
okay. When the developer, yep, I got you. So a rewording of note number 9 upon the waiver granted to state that residential sprinklers shall be installed.
Yes.
In lieu of
In lieu of.
water extension.
Yep.
Yep, I agree.
Okay, any other comments or questions? Hearing none from the board, hearing none from the public. Shall we close the public hearing?
Mr. Chairman, I move to close the public hearing.
Second.
Moved by O'Connor, seconded by Malaby to close the public hearing. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Oh, public hearing is closed, so let's now deal with the waiver requests.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to move to grant the following waivers. LDCR Section 17030A1, water main extension for hydrant access. LDC, I can use all together, correct?
If there's no objection to the board, you can,
Don't have a problem taking them together?
Take them all together.
Excuse me, I'm sorry, I would move that we take them separately.
there's an
Okay,
objection,
just
so
once.
we
Yep.
need to take them separately.
Thank you.
All right, so it was moved by Mr. Malaby to grant the first waiver requested,
Second.
seconded by Mr. Grenice. Discussion. No discussion, I'll poll the board. Mr. Chase,
Yes.
Mr. Healy,
Yes.
Mr. Grenice,
Yes.
Mr. O'Connor,
Yes.
Mr. Myers,
Yes.
Mr. Fishman,
Yes.
Mr. Malaby,
Yes.
and the chair votes yes.
Mr. Chair, I move to grant the following waiver. LDCR Section 17031A, underground installation of utility distribution lines.
Second.
So moved by Malamy, seconded by Grenice to waive the underground utilities. Any discussion? Then I'll poll the board. Mr. Chase?
Yes.
Mr. Healy?
Yes.
Mr. Grenice?
Yes.
Mr. Connor?
Yes.
Mr. Myers?
No.
You find no hardship, I assume?
Well, I already commented on it previously.
You are on the record, so that's great. Thank you.
Okay, I'll be happy to do it on the record. I'm looking at the technical review committee notes, and I see that on page 2, on the bullet points, it does note that need waiver for a water main extension, but on the 6th bullet point, it indicates show underground locations of proposed electrical services, and that hasn't been done. I just think as a matter of policy, either the town does have a regulation for underground utility lines. They look nice in other towns that I drive through. And they also are storm proofing the electrical service in the town. So I just think that if the town does have that regulation, I have a hard time voting yes without a hardship demonstrated.
Thank you. Mr. Fishman?
Yes.
Mr. Malamy?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. Are there any other waiver requests?
No, sir.
Okay.
All right, Mr. Chair, I move to find the proposed plan does not alter the existing conditions which would affect access to the lots, ensuring the health, safety, and welfare to the neighborhood remains unchanged as a result of the subdivision plan. The proposed development will allow for providing additional housing opportunities in the community as the high demand for housing in both Derry and the state of New Hampshire continues.
All right, I'm a little confused. We're not doing findings of fact, is that what we're doing?
That is the finding of facts that Richard just
Right,
read.
excellent, thank you. So it's been moved by Mr. Malamy,
Second.
second by Mr. O'Connor. Any discussion? Poll the board. Mr. Chase?
Yes.
Mr. Healy?
Yes.
Mr. Grenice? Mr. O'Connor?
Yes.
Mr. Myers?
Yes.
Mr. Fishman?
Yes.
Mr. Malamy?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes.
Mr. Chairman, I approve pursuant to RSA 676:4, capital I, completed application with the following conditions: subject to the owner's signature, subject to on-site inspection by the town engineer, establish appropriate escrow as required to complete the project, establish escrow for the setting of bounds, or certify the bounds have been set. Note approved waiver on the plan. Here's there's 3 of them that we've got changes to. So trailer to be moved to conform to setbacks on sheet 3 of 6. The next item, review abutters concern about drainage on lot 138-4 regarding the culvert to be resolved with on-site with the town engineer and Mr. Doolittle's engineer. And the next one I might have missed, so I might need some help with it with
The note about residential sprinklers.
note number 9.
I
It's
don't,
the correct, said shall be.
Yes.
Is that all I need to do on that one?
Yeah, residential sprinklers shall be installed.
Shall be, okay. So,
okay.
and then the last one, we're not, almost finished, unless there's some corrections to what I already put on there. Subject to the appropriate recording fees payable to the Rockingham County Registry of Deeds. This includes a $25 L-chip fee, recording fees for the Mylar, and the notice of decision. Obtain written approval from the planning director's designee, the planning director and/or the designee, that the GIS disk is received and is operable and complies with LDCR section 170-24-14.c. Conditions precedent shall be met within 6 months. Did I
Second.
miss anything?
Well, that's, I was going to ask, moved by O'Connor, seconded by Malamy. Did Mr. O'Connor catch everyone's notes about conditions?
No. The last one regarding Shelby, that's the only word I heard.
Oh, it requires the installation of residential sprinklers.
Thank you.
There is wording in the subdivision reg about that. Okay, if not, I will poll the board. Mr. Chase,
Yes.
Mr. Healy,
Yes.
Mr. Grenice,
Yes.
Mr. O'Connor,
Yes.
Mr. Myers,
Yes.
Fishman,
Yes.
Malvy,
Yes.
and the chair votes yes. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Good luck.
Appreciate it.
So next up on our agenda is a workshop to discuss some amendments to the floodplain provisions of Article 7.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Couple of things. Every decade or so, the state of New Hampshire, in this case, it's the Department of Planning and Development, reviews our federal maps, the FEMA floodplain maps. So they make some recommended changes. In this case, you'll see highlighted, you have the handout highlighted in both yellow and red, the red meaning that the text was deleted. The yellow highlight means that they added text. So as a requirement, this is a zoning amendment. The code enforcement officer is the department that enforces the floodplain ordinance. So if I can just read for the record, you have for a minute from Bob Mackey regarding the floodplain amendments. This is from Code Enforcement Director Bob Mackey, dated today. To the Planning Board, I have reviewed the amendments to the town's floodplain regulations zoning ordinance Article 7 as proposed by the State Office of Planning and Development. The proposed amendments are editorial in nature and include some added or updated definitions and other minor edits. I would recommend these amendments be scheduled for a public hearing and adopted as proposed. Again, this is done by the state every 10 years or so. We want to be in compliance with our FEMA floodplain maps. The maps themselves are not changing, but literally you can just see where they deleted some wording, they added some wording. I don't want to say it's housekeeping, but they are minor. So we'd like to get the board's approval to schedule a public hearing as a zoning hearing, and then we would, if the board approves it, we'll forward it to town council because it is a zoning amendment.
Mr. O'Connor.
Mr. Cioris, should we have a definition for X?
Oh,
Like Tim said, I agree with Tim, the feds don't even know what X means. It's in all their
agree.
regulations, no one knows what it is. So procedurally, Mr. Chairman, if the board is okay with these changes tonight, at our next regular meeting in June, we'll schedule a public hearing. You'll vote to schedule it in June, and then we'll forward it to the town council at the council meeting in July for adoption.
okay, so do we actually schedule the meeting now, or?
No.
No.
Tonight's literally, first step is just look at if you're okay with the wording and the changes, it's just a workshop at our next meeting on June 5th. We'll schedule it. That's all you have to vote to schedule a date we'll give you, which will be June 19th. If you approve it that night, then it will go to the town council in July.
Okay, so we have a motion to approve the amendments before us for the purpose of taking it to public hearing.
Right.
Right, great.
Thank you.
Discussion, questions? Hearing none, then what is the board's pleasure?
A motion to present this, June 5th, was it?
Yeah, on June 5th, we'll have the date for you. You have to put that under other business to vote to schedule a public hearing, but the hearing will be the 19th of June. But tonight just lets you to move forward to the
Put it on
next meeting.
agenda.
Yeah.
Okay.
Second?
Yeah.
Second.
Moved by O'Connor, seconded by Malady. I will poll the board. Mr. Chase.
Yes.
Mr. Healy.
Yes.
Mr. Grenice.
Yes.
Mr. O'Connor.
Yes.
Mr. Myers.
Yes.
Mr. Fishman.
Yes.
Mr. Malady.
Yes.
And the chair votes yes.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and that's all I have, and that's all we have, I mean.
Okay, so are there any board member comments? Nope. Then maybe we would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We stand adjourned.
No, I object. Let's stay here all night.